and that's just how we are. Today we have Chris Kennedy, good friend from the Navy, which we won't harp on that too much. My wife was in the Navy, so wearing white is cool if you're in the Navy. And where are you coming from, Chris?
I'm in Virginia Beach, so I'm almost half the planet away, even though we're the same country.
And indeed, almost as far away as you can get. As Chris and I were talking before we came live, I did a couple gigs at Dam Neck on Virginia Beach, and it is a beautiful part of the world, especially that particular area right on the beach. I liked it. But if you want to go anywhere, leaving Virginia Beach, you drive into the hell's half acre of traffic getting over towards Norfolk and up towards Hampton Roads.
Yeah, that hasn't gotten better since you were here. If anything, it's gotten a lot worse. Although these days, with nobody on the road, it's easier. But typically, when everyone's there and when carriers are in port, yeah, it's a mess.
Yeah. That's a quick memory jog. Oh, hey, that was 25 years ago. I did my one of two gigs on Darn Neck because we don't swear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always called it Darn Neck.
They've got signs at the beach that have no swearing on them. That's a Virginia Beach thing. So they really have that.
That's too many Marines. That's clearly what it is.
Well, there are a few with Little Creek amphibious base, and that's now merged into Fort Story, which used to be the Army base there. They're now a combined thing.
The reason I asked Chris on today was because, like me, retired from the military and then moved into a career writing science fiction. I think a part of my time in aviation intel, I was MOTS 1. I was a WTI, weapons tactics instructor. And, Chris will know what that is for the Navy. Navy has Top Gun. WTI is the Marine version, but the Marine version includes all branches. It's not just aviators. It's
combined
the ground support
arms.
Teams. And it is the combined arms. So, yeah. So you might be a Top Gun, but I was a WTI, and Marine pilots are WTIs as well. It's all the same classification. But I think that gave me a different insight when it came to writing science fiction and the aviation and aerial components.
I think so too. It certainly has served me well. Just if nothing else, thinking in three dimensions. A lot of times, people that like sailors, they're thinking about things just in two dimensions and how you move around. But having an aviation background, you also get that third component, diving on people, that a lot of the folks don't always see. I've got some friends that write with me, and when they write Navy stuff or space stuff, always have to go through and go, well, yeah, but not really because of So it has been a big help, for me writing sci-fi.
And what got you into writing sci-fi? What made you say, hey, I want to write a science fiction book?
Unlike most people, I never really wanted to be a writer. It never was something that I thought a lot of. I loved reading. I've been a reader since I was a kid. I read all of the sci-fi books in the High Point, North Carolina Public Library. I thought, when I wrote my doctoral dissertation, I was like, hooray, I never have to write anything ever again. I'm done. And it was one of those things where one day as I was driving home from work, I had a story pop into my head. Wow, if this happened, then that, then this, I had seen something on the news and I was like, wow, that'd be a really cool story. Look, if this, that, China takes Seattle. Oh my gosh. It totally could happen. And I was like, I should write that down. But what would I do with it? I don't know anybody in the publishing industry. I don't know any agents. But it's a great story. But I don't know anyone, and I went back and forth, and I got home. By the time I got home, I had talked myself completely out of it. And I walked in, and my wife said, "Hey, dinner's going to be a little bit late because life." And I was like, "You know what? I think I'm going to sit down and write that story." So I pulled out the laptop and I'm sitting away, sitting at the kitchen table typing away. And my wife's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm writing a story." And she's like, "Yeah, what are you really doing?" And I was like, "No," but it was one of those things. It was, um, it was never something that I'd ever mentioned to her. So she, just didn't understand why I'd be doing it. She is now my biggest fan and biggest promoter, and I love her. And she hates when I tell this story because she's like, "Well, it makes me look bad. It makes me look like I don't care." No, she cares very much, and she's my biggest fan, and I love her very much. But it was something that there was no reason
Yeah.
to expect me to do it. But I got it out there, and it sold.
Yeah.
And I went, "Hey, I need to do that again." So I wrote the second book and it sold.
Yep.
And then I went, "Oh, sci-fi." And that sold more. And I went, "Wow, I need to do this." And I was
Well, and
having
that's
fun.
it's the initial impression that people have gotten over time that artists must suffer for their art. Oh, you want to write a book? God, don't you want to take care of me? Your retirement pay isn't quite what you were making active duty. Is this really what you're going to do? And it's like, well, now it's yes. And this is one thing. 20 books of 50K. We're all about showing people potential. And the harder you work, the luckier you get. So you kept working at it, improving your craft, improving your quantity, and improving your marketing. So
Well, and that was something, I said the first book sold, hooray. But it wasn't that wasn't just a stroke of luck. The whole time I was working on writing it, when I realized that no agent was going to pick it up, I spent at least the first half hour of my writing time every day focus. I'd read at least two articles, one on craft and one on business, so that I got better both as a writer and knowing how to market it. And so a lot of the things that you ought to do before you publish a story, I had done. So when it came out, there were people ready for it and waiting for it and knew it was coming. So they bought it, as opposed to not doing any marketing ahead of time. And you write a book and you spend all your time on it. You get a cover, you get edited, and you put out your book and you go, "Hooray! Here's my book." And everyone goes, "Who are you?" So
yeah,
I had done a
yeah,
lot of the prep work. Part of that's from the military background. I was involved in planning a lot. So when I first sat
yeah,
down and started working to put out the book, I said, "Well, I don't know anything that I'm doing here. This is completely brand new to me." So I put together a plan. Okay, well, what are the things that I need, and how do I need to do it? And I then followed the plan as I went along, doing the marketing things, doing the editing, so that when the book came out, was it perfect? No. The how do you get better as a writer? You write. So the first book wasn't perfect, even though it was edited. I looked at it 2 years later and went, "Oh my God, how did people buy this? How did they read it?" And had to rewrite it. And it's lacking a complete overhaul. It's never going to be perfect, but it was my first. And
yeah,
you get better and better, and you keep working at your craft, like you're always talking about. You keep working as a marketer, trying to find new things, and you just keep going. You don't look back and go, "God, I wish that I'd have done this and that." And okay, what can I learn from that so that I do better
yeah.
next time?
You bet. You bet. If you don't have the first book as a bellwether, as a benchmark from which to improve, you know what? You've got to have that. And I thought about going back and rewriting my first book because I look at it. I'm like, okay, this is a good story, but damn, here's some choppy language. Here's a non-flow issue here. But and somebody sent me an email. A fan sent me an email 2 weeks ago, and she was like, hey, this is good, but it's kind of the writing is kind of amateurish. Just really, it's a good story, but have you thought about rewriting it? And I sent her an answer. I said, hey, I appreciate it. I'm glad you like the story. Maybe you could check out my 100th book and see where the writing has gone to see if I have improved. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I volunteered. I said, hey, I will gift this to you if you want to take a look. She never answered back to that. So maybe it was a fire and forget. Here, I want to
Yeah.
stab it right in this author's eye. And there's envy and stuff. But I gave her a shot because I want that book out there as that benchmark. Okay, could tell a good story, but couldn't do it as well as it could be. And then by up here, I want to say that, yes, I'm a lot better. It's
Well,
just,
yeah,
it's just
and
learn by
I've
doing.
continued to work on that series. I have a book coming out in it next month, and it'll be the eighth book in that series. Um, but people have to go all the way back to that the very first book to start the series, and some go, I don't know if I want. Trust me, just keep with it. It'll get better as it goes.
You bet, you bet. Well, and I suggest that first book you wrote had the compelling story. And yes, it could have been written better. And oh my God, you have a PhD, but I mean, no, it's a different skill. Just like
Right.
when you learn to fly,
Oh,
it's a
absolutely.
different skill. Once you learn it, hey, it's cool, and then you keep going, and then you do bigger and better things. Um, how long have you been writing?
I've been writing coming up on 8 years.
Okay,
I
good
started
deal,
in
good deal. You
yeah. Sorry.
you, you started in 2012.
2013. So I
Okay,
guess so 7 years.
okay, okay. No, it's the were those first stories Four Horsemen universe?
No, that was Red Tide, the Chinese occupation of Seattle, and then occupied Seattle,
Okay,
which came out as a duology. It wasn't sci-fi; it was more military fiction. It was set 5 years from now, but then in the third book, aliens show up and it goes to sci-fi. Same
okay,
characters.
okay. Well, near future, it's all
Yeah,
good. Um,
yeah.
but the Four Horsemen universe, a different creation that you have. You created
Mm-hmm.
this universe, and now you have authors contributing to this universe in a big way. How are you doing
Yeah.
that?
Well, it's a shared universe, and the origin of that was it's actually Mark Wandry's idea
Okay,
was the initial idea, and he saw me at a con and he said, "Hey, I'd really like to work with you. You seem to be doing pretty well. You seem to understand this marketing thing. Love to write with you." And I was deep into that series at the time, and I'm like, yeah, I'd like to, but I've got this other thing going on. As soon as I finish it up, sure, let's get together. And he thought I was just blowing him off. Comes one more year later, I see him at the same con, and I've now tied up some of this stuff, and I'm like, hey, if you still want to do this thing, let's talk. And he's like, what? I said, well, you said you wanted to write together. He's like, well, I thought you just blew me off. And I was like, no, let's talk about it. And he says, well, I've got this idea about the four horsemen. And he starts, talking about it. And he's like, well, I've just about finished the first book though. So I'm like, well, send it to me. And he sent it to me that night, and I stayed up way late. I saw him the next morning. I'm like, I hate you. And he's like, why? I said, because you made me stay up late because I really liked the book. And he was like, really? And I said, yeah. And so we went into the bar to talk about it because where do you do book stuff in the bar? And he
you're a
said,
naval
well, hey,
aviator. There's no difference.
yeah. He said, well, here's the four characters I thought. And I said, well, okay, which two do you want to do? And he said, these two. And I said, okay, well, I like the idea, but I want to do two other things. I'm not sold on those. And he said, okay, sure. You do you, I'll do me. And so we put it out, and we had put out 3 books, and we wanted to expand the universe because it was big, and we said, hey, author friends, would you like to write a story in this? And I thought, I was looking for 14 to put together an anthology. I got 42.
Yeah,
So it
nice.
became Fistful of Credits, Few Credits More, and The Good, the Bad, and the Merc. Everybody just wanted to play because it was a fun universe, and they wrote good stories. And some of the readers said, well, hey, we want to know more about this peacemaker person. We want to know more about this race of cat-like assassins. So we had them write full-length books, and then we tied them into the main storyline, and more people came and wanted to do different things. And okay, so we brought them in and we tied that in, and just about all of the books that were written, as side stories have now been tied in. So they're all meaningful and it gives readers something. And I promised 2 years ago that I would release a new book every 3 weeks, because the readers are like, I want more, I want more, I want more. And I said, okay, well, we now have enough authors. I'll release a book every 3 weeks for the year. And they went, can you? And I said, sure. And I did. I ended up with 18 or 19 that year, every 3 weeks. So I did it again last year. And then we'll probably do it again this year. And it's good in that it keeps the readers engaged. They've started a fan club for the universe now. So that's very cool. It's
Complete with
super neat to go
cosplay.
to super neat to go to cons and see people cosplaying characters. We had a full military dining in at one of the cons last year. Would have done it again this year, but COVID. So
Yeah.
it's really cool, and we've been very lucky. We have great readers, of course, and great authors to bring it all together. This upcoming next month, we have 3 books releasing in the universe. The 1st, the 15th, and the 29th. So,
Okay.
keep going forward.
You bet. You bet. And one thing with your universe, I've written a short story in one of Chris's anthologies, and
A
he
darn
gives
good one
you
too.
like a 10 or 12 page Bible of here's the universe. Here's things you need to know, because we know you're not going to go back and reread all the books in the universe. And then I asked Chris, what is one that needs addressed, one race that hasn't been mentioned in other books, so I'm not competing with that kind of background, because I had time to write the story, but I didn't have time to go back and read the books. And you gave me the freaking crab people against the squid people or something underwater, and that was cool. And once again, the 3 dimensionality of it came into play. How do missiles fly through the air? And that was my time up at Nellis at the test range at Tonopah, and then whatever the replacement to the Top Gun place, Miramar, in Nevada, Fallon. So
Fallon.
we spent some time
Yep.
at Fallon, and I was in the test group for JADOJEZ, Joint Air Defense Operation Joint Engagement Zone, which was technical deconfliction of combined airspace. Can missiles and airplanes fly in the same airspace and not kill each other? Well, kill bad guys, but not kill the good guys. The end
Which is
result was
important.
no. The end result was no. We do need airspace deconfliction. So, but we did a lot of testing up there, and god awful is Nevada huge if you're driving between the places. But that I used that experience and that knowledge with crafting that story. So it goes back to, because people ask me all the time, how do you insert your military experience into that? Well, the 3 dimensionality of airspace in conflict is okay. I've experienced that firsthand. I've seen it all. I've seen different mock-ups and different technology that tried to address that. So those things. But your Four Horsemen universe, I go on rambling rants and diatribes if
No,
you didn't
that's
figure
good.
that
I
out.
mean, that's how we try and do things with authors coming in too. Okay, what can you write? What do you do well? And give them something like that. That's when Kevin Eikenberry came in. He's a former cavalry officer. He does tank stuff great.
Okay.
In any sort of land armor battles where forces are moving like that. So we don't tell people generally what you're going to write. This we say, what can you do, what would you like to do, and I think that's important, in any writing you do, is liking what you're writing about, because it really comes through in the story, that you're having fun, and it's a fun story rather than something you're forcing yourself to do.
How do you maintain the quality of the books that get published in Four Horsemen universe?
I read every single one of them.
Okay.
Nothing comes out from Chris Kennedy Publishing that I don't read. So, I also have a good set of, early readers that go through them. Some of the folks have read, every single book. There was one, that in the latest book that was coming out, one of the guys said, well, hey, somebody says Mecca right here rather than Mech. So they caught that one last little A, because that's how focused they are on it. So that certainly helps me keep everything in line, having 40 folks that, read everything and know all of the canon. And, so between them and myself, hopefully we keep everything, the same. And that's what the readers have said is, wow, the quality control is really good. All of the readers sound like they match up together. There isn't a bad book, there isn't a bad story, and they all fit together. Well, hey, they should, because the core authors, of which there are 6 of us, we have our own private little Facebook group, and we talk about where we're going and what we're doing, and how this piece is going to go here and that piece is going to go there. And okay, well, if you do that, then I'm going to do this. And, we'll all get rolling, and it'll be like, well, okay, that's great. You're going to do that. Then I'm going to do this. And then he's going to do that. And she's going to do that, and we all get, pretty excited about it. And we're back and forth, and, it's a lot of fun. Surround yourself with good people.
It's amazing what happens when you do that.
Yeah.
Somebody asked a question. My stories always flew best at novella length. Is it worth it?
It's hard to sell novellas. Is what I have found. Your mileage may vary. I try not to speak in finalities, because everybody approaches things differently, and some people are able to do it. For me, I'd rather take 4 or 5 of them, put them together, and make a collection out of it, and sell it as a full length thing. Probably 2/3 of my income are page reads, and if you don't have a lot of pages in there, you're not getting paid for the page reads. So I'd rather have something that's around 100,000 words rather than 20. So I'd put together 5 of them, and that are all related, and make a full length book out of it.
I have 20 or 30 different novellas, 2 different series, and I would suggest, if you want to make money, don't write novellas. Once again, probably no caveats. I know A.C. Fuller has had a pretty successful experiment writing writing novellas. And publishing regularly. The big thing is with novellas is you need to hit your readers and keep them on track. It's easier to sell 10 books to one reader than it is to sell one book to 10 different readers, because it's completely different. Once you get them on the hook, they're back on the hook. The my best-selling series of novellas was after we put them into 3-packs. So now, instead of a 30,000 word book, we have 330, so 90,000 word books, and then also made audiobooks of those 90,000 words. Now, this is a series, so 3 novellas, they built on each other, so it only made sense. It's okay. And this year, we're going to do a complete set, all 12 novellas in one series that then will be a single pack. We'll blend up the audio and make a single audio as well for that 12-pack. And that, so yes, you can make money off novellas, and it helps if they're big, long novellas, like 3 at a pop. 90,000 word books are good to go.
Yes, they are.
Sci-fi.
And yes, you may have success with novellas, but it's been my experience that they're harder to sell, and they're harder to get the right price point on too. Because if you want to get the 70% from Amazon, you got to make it at $2.99, which some people aren't willing to go $2.99 for a novella, which doesn't always make sense to me, but that's just the way things are. So
That's a hard price point. Hard price point on $2.99 for a
yeah,
novella. Now 40,000 words. If you're 39,000 words, it's a novella. If you're 40,000 words, it's a novel. It's still, they can look at those page reads and see 120 page reads on Amazon. They're like, yeah, this is a short book.
yeah,
And $2.99. Sometimes it's really hard to get that price. I mean, I've sold a lot of novellas at $2.99, but it's a lot easier to get $4.99 for a full 90,000, 80,000 word book,
yep. And a
and
lot of
70%
the
royalties.
right, and a lot of the big readers, the people that read fast, they want longer books, not short books. And they'll burn through a book a day. They're not looking for something
Yep.
shorter. They're looking for longer stuff. So I think there's a bigger market for bigger books than novellas. Doesn't mean there isn't a market, just means there's a
Even
bigger
more,
market.
a bigger market. And that is key, Chris, right there. Genre equals marketing. People try to sub genre. Hey, are there any writers of gay unicorns who are carnivores in this group? And you're like, what the fuck are you doing? How about urban how about urban fantasy with unicorn? Okay, let's find the biggest group of readers, and then you can sub niche that down. But you really have to market to that biggest group of readers. Don't find yourself in such a narrow hole that you can't find those readers, because
Right.
then those are the people who become grossly disillusioned with publishing. I'm a horrible writer. No, you may not be, but you may have picked a topic. It's the Venn diagram, like you do with Four Horsemen. Find what you like, find what
Mm-hmm.
sells, that overlap, do that.
Yep.
Do that. I mean, no, don't do that. I mean, even though it's quarantine, I've heard that quarantine sex was the best sex some people have ever heard. But we'll have to keep contemplating that.
Yeah.
um,
The baby boom in 9 months.
yeah. The COVID clan
My
of
my son my
2020.
son asked me yesterday, is that really a thing? A baby boom in 9 months? Yeah, it could be. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, he's got a place to himself and no no social contact. So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe not for you, but for
Yeah.
everybody else.
Yeah.
I saw yesterday, and of course, on a completely unrelated note, Bruce Willis is isolating with Demi Moore, his ex-wife, and their three daughters. And two of the daughters have live-in boyfriends, so they've got this whole mob of people living in their in the mansion, of course.
Uh-huh.
But it was it's hilarious. Some of the hookups that people have seen, and these are distractions while I'm cruising and thinking. I also saw Blake Shelton and Gwen Stefani,
Mm-hmm.
and he Gwen Stefani said, "I got to cut your hair," and she did cut Blake Shelton's hair. It was interesting. I haven't seen a picture since she cut it, but he said she insists, so I'm going to let her, and we'll see how it turns out. But my wife also insisted on cutting my hair. I'm pretty shaggy.
My wife offered to cut my hair. I said no thanks. It currently is longer than it's been since high school, but I just wasn't ready to go there yet. Maybe at some point down the road. But she's like, really? I've got
Yeah,
scissors. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure you do.
yeah. I think mine is, besides this part on top, but I think mine is about as long. I mean, I've got sideburn hairs that are 2 inches long. It's pretty grim. I'm gonna have to get a cut.
Yeah,
But talking about
there's a
your
reason I have a hat on.
talking about personal appearance, in the past, you have made significant reader relationships through your con circuit. How's this year? How are you going to manage that this year?
Well, we're trying to keep people engaged, and I think that you're absolutely right. Cons are something that we do a lot of. Both myself and a lot of the authors that write for CKP, and we really we've missed out. I mean, because basically the biggest ones that we go, the ones where you get to be with the readers, have all been canceled so far this year.
Yep.
They haven't canceled Dragon Con yet, but That one's not quite the same
Tell me.
because it's just so ginormous that you don't really get the same one-on-one that you do at LibertyCon or Fantasy, which are two
Yeah.
of the big ones that we do. So just trying to be more available on like Facebook and do more marketing, to people rather than necessarily ads, which are great, but also to be available to the people. And we've talked about maybe doing some virtual cons, some virtual panels, some virtual things, to keep
Yeah.
people involved. But it's a matter of reaching out more, I think, and being more available on a daily basis. Certainly, that's what I'm trying to do, to
Yeah.
make sure that we stay in contact with all of our readers. That for them, that they miss it too. It's not just us, getting out there. It's something that they like to do, to get out and see their tribe. Because it's all a matter of tribe and all of the people that you want to be with. I heard LibertyCon described one time as a family reunion with people you actually like, which I
Yeah.
thought was funny, but it's very true. I mean, it's the one time where you get together with all of your tribe, all of the readers and authors that are very close to you, that do the things that you do, that have the not always the same likes and dislikes, but they all like the same sci-fi and the same fantasy, and they come together to celebrate that. And it's the one time where you can let all the politics go, and just come and talk about sci-fi with some of the best authors and readers in the business.
Yeah. That's cool. And you've made a lot of contacts and getting the cosplayers and the fan club. The con circuit, I personally suspect that your good years you break even on the costs and what you
Oh
make.
yeah, yeah. Cons. I don't go to cons for the sales. I mean, I'll sell books there to try and ameliorate the loss.
Yeah.
But you're going there to make relationships. Not only will you sell a few books and then hopefully some ebooks when people go back home, but you make the relationships where readers go, wow, I met that guy, and he's actually pretty cool, and he signed this book for me, and he did this, and he's gonna write me into a book.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of that, and I think it's the relationship building. It's one of those things where people want to do business with people they know, like, and trust.
Yep.
Well, if you're just some nameless, faceless person, it's hard to really get that relationship, that know, like, and trust. But when you go to cons and you meet people and they go, wow, he's really cool, or she's really nice, and she listened to me when I talked to her, and she did this for me, and he did that
Yep.
for me, and oh, he gave me this cool swag, that cost 5 cents to me, but made a difference to them.
Yeah.
So it's important to make those kind of relationships, and that's where you do it. You do it face to face. Sure, you can do it on social media some, but face to face is always better.
Oh, always, because then they can see it in your eyes, and you
Yeah.
can see
Oh
it in
yeah,
their eyes when they
absolutely.
get excited
And and
about the books.
and that's why when I do meetings with folks about, hey, I've got this book, and okay, well, I'm interested as a publisher. I try and do a video chat with them because I want to see their eyes. I want to see if they're excited about it. I want to see
Yeah.
who are these people. And you don't get that from social media. You don't get that
Yeah.
from even a phone call. You can hear, but you can't see. And a lot of communication is very visual. um, so
Yeah. Well, and part of going to cons and making relationships is other authors, like David Weber. You met him, and now you have a co-author contract with David. Can you
oh,
explain
absolutely.
how that came about?
Um, just going to cons and talking with folks, and met Sharon, his wife, who's
Yeah.
one of the best people in the world. David's one of the best people in the world. I grew up. He hates when I say I grew up reading him because he's like, that makes me old. I'm like, well, oh, okay. My adult life, I've been reading you all along. How about that? He's like, well,
Yeah,
you're
yeah. No,
50, so if you've been doing, yes, David, you've been writing that long, so just get over it. Um,
you've been
but
published and available
meeting
that
him,
long.
yeah, well, it's making relationships with other authors. I mean, that's where
Yeah.
a lot of deals happen in the bar at cons too. And that's not with David, but I met David at a con and a couple cons and talking with him and asked him, hey, would you be available for a story in this anthology we have coming up? And he was like, well, no, but I could do a foreword for you. Okay, that's great. And you get to interacting with people and you make those relationships. And at one point I said, well, hey, when are you gonna do the next book in this series? And he's like, well, I want to, but I can't. No time. And I said, well, I'll help. And he was like, well, and Sharon says, yes, let him help. And David's like, well, and Sharon says, let him help, David. He's like, would you like to help? Yes, I would, as a matter of fact. And that's been a great experience. But that was only possible because of the relationship that we built up through several cons and talking with them and seeing them on Facebook and just once again, it's the seeing your face and that you really care and you're a good person. And there's nobody that I would want to write with more than David, not only because I love his stories, but also because he's just such a good person. He makes me want to be a better person when I'm around him. He's that
Good.
good. And he hates when I say that too, which is why he is such a good person. But we've got
Yeah.
we've got the next book coming out. It'll be um, you know whenever Tor decides to release it. I think next December they're saying, so like 18 months from now. But it's I'm really excited about it. It's been written for a year now, and I love it.
Yeah. Well, and that one is through Trad because it's through David's publisher,
Yeah,
and David is traditionally published consistently. We're trying to
right.
convince him to explore the indie realm and see how many readers come over. But also,
Well,
thanks to you and Michael Rothman, we were able to get David's commitment for Vegas to come and join us
yeah.
in Vegas.
And I have published him. He has a short story in Trouble in the Wind, which is a military
Okay.
alternate history book. That he provided for. We've got a bunch of big name authors in it that were all trad pub authors. That's a series we built up. The first book that was sea based, Navy based. Had some good authors. We built it a little bigger for the air side. And then Trouble in the Wind, which is the third, the ground one. We had any number of large authors coming over from TradPub to be in it because it did so well. So it's, if you can get something and keep building on it, 20 books, that's
Yeah.
if you find something that works, keep doing it and keep trying to build on it. And we did, and we were able to get him to be part of that. And that you can do a lot worse for selling books by having David Weber's name, on the cover for it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not bad at all. Not bad at all.
Yeah.
And good for him. Good for him in sharing and writing a story. Good for him for his longevity. And
Oh
that's one
yeah.
of his presentations in Vegas is about staying frosty, staying
Yeah.
hungry,
Well,
and continuing to jam good stories.
he has some mega series that he's continuing to work on, but he's also got some other ones that are smaller, and he's been giving them some love too and keeping those readers going. He has engaged readers across a number of series. The Honor Harrington series, of course, has its own cosplayers and is one of the
Yeah.
bigger organizations of cosplayers. Because he writes good stories and he's written enough of them that people can do things with it. if you only write 1 or 2 books, it's hard to really do a lot of cosplay or build it up. It's over. But if you have an ongoing series, it's a lot easier for people to pick out the things that they like and want to do. The Four Horsemen series now has over 50 books in it. So there are a lot of places that readers can pull out that I really like that one thing, and I want to do that one thing. Okay, sure, go ahead. And it doesn't have to be the same thing for everybody. It can be some different pieces of the pie. There are Marine units of cosplayers. There are Army units. There are a bunch of different things. And if you give it some meaning by putting volunteering into it, where they can get badges for volunteering, then you're also using the series for some good, to help out
Yeah.
people and make something more of it than just the series itself. And I'm really proud of what they're doing with the cosplay groups with that, in helping others and in doing some volunteering and giving out contracts for that and ribbons and such, and making it worthwhile. It also keeps it going too, which I like.
You bet.
It's
And
I
you personally deliver the awards at cons and shows?
we haven't yet, because it Fantasy, which was just canceled in March, would have been the first one where we really could do some of that, and we were
Okay.
looking forward to it. Unfortunately, all of the good times to do that here this year have been canked. But in the future, yes,
Yeah.
definitely, we want to do that. We had planned to recognize a number of people at the cons that where the big Four Horsemen stuff was going on. All of the people that had helped stand it up and were doing good things in the universe. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And talking about the universe, actually, I was thinking about it here. The Expanding Universe 6, we will do another TEU, because they do just fine, especially in regards to exposure and to publicity and helping people up who are newer authors. But I'm going to make that. I know it's been 20 books before. I'm going to make that exclusive to IASFA members.
Nice.
So it'll be. I noticed almost all your authors are now in have joined and are members.
Yep.
So we'll put that on the website only. We're not going to do that through Facebook at all. So a little bit different, but TEU, we're well established. We've got a couple short stories that are Nebula finalists out of that series. So it's it does get some visibility.
Yeah, and I'm definitely I'm right there with you. I'm very much for the group. I told everybody, all of the authors in CKP, that I'm very much for it. We had a couple of the people that were there last year for the hey, what do you think about this idea? And we're all
Yep.
for it. We want to be part of it. We think that it is a great group and a great idea. And definitely something that you can get away from all of the politics of some of the other organizations, which you saw immediately as soon as you came out and said, hey, we're going to do this thing, then all of a sudden the spears start coming in from the side, and oh, well, it's those people doing those things. And it's like, no, it's people trying to do good things and help people along and do a little reach back and bring the next person up. That's one of the things that I'm proudest of with the Four Horsemen universe, is we've given a lot of people a start. Nearly every anthology that we've done, we've had at least 2 or 3 stories where that's an author's first story. The one that's coming out on the 1st has 3 people that don't have any stories ever published, and it's going to be their first publication, and I couldn't be happier for them. They have great stories, and I'm looking forward to giving them some exposure, and then it's up to them, and if they want to run with it, great, and if they don't, great. It's what writing is, whatever you want to make it. whatever you want it to be for you. And if they want to continue on, it's going to give them a great start and get their stories out in front of a lot of eyes. So I'm really excited for them, and the opportunity to do that for them.
And since you're doing the publishing through CKP Publishing and that romance thing, which we won't talk about, the I remember Michael Anderle, one month, his first month, that he sent over $100,000 to all the co-authors as their share of the revenue. He said, I don't like seeing that money going out the door just because I look at the bank account. He said, but damn, this is invigorating. These people earn this, and here they're getting this money, and he was excited. He was more excited for them and being able to, hey, here's your share, and look at this, look at these numbers, and I'm just curious. I like sending out the royalties as well, and I usually pay a month early for my co-authors. As soon as I have the final number, know exactly what it is. Hey, here you go.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love sending out the money to the folks. CKP has made a couple people full-time authors, given them the opportunity to be full-time authors. If COVID hadn't happened, I know of two others that were looking to do that. But I think they're probably, stepping back and going, okay, let me make sure everything's cool. But the ability to do that and send people, life-changing amounts of money is awesome. And I couldn't be happier when I send, those big paychecks.
And that's Adam Messer. I interviewed with him on live radio a couple times over the past month. He sent me a list for a blog post that he's doing for his site, and one of the questions was, what are the premises, what are the background behind IASFA, the Independent Alliance of Science Fiction and Fantasy Authors? And I said it's really a simple thing. I wanted a professional organization that embraced my definition of professional, which is you make money from what you're doing. If you're not making money, if you're trying to just change the world, that's a different profession than the one I'm looking at. And you hit it right on the head. We've had two authors that have gone full time. This is not that everybody has to go full time, but if you're writing words, you don't have to suffer for your art. You can work hard at it, but you can your words have value.
Right.
So I wanted a professional organization that actually helped you understand the business side, that you have to create good art, but you can sell it and still make good money. And if you have your day job and like it, fine. That's we're just trying to do what's right by the authors to make them more professional.
Right.
Make money from their art. And I don't believe you have to suffer for your art.
Right. And I was I had to leave a writers group where I was on the board. Because they were like, the president said, well, no, we don't want you doing this presentation at this, conference that we're having. And I said, why not? She said, well, because you're going to mention the book that you have. Okay. She said, well, writing shouldn't be about making money. And I said, what? She said, writing should be noble, and it should be, it should never be about the money. You should do it, and you should never even think to get paid. And I'm like, I've got 3 kids in college. If there wasn't a paycheck in it, it'd be awfully hard to do. And she happened to be an editor, and she wanted to be paid for getting, for editing. And it's like, how do you see that I'm supposed to pay you if I'm not supposed to make money from it? And it just, I was like, I don't think that we have, common viewpoints on this, and I don't think I can be on this board anymore. And she said, well, if you're only going, if you're only interested in making money, then you probably shouldn't be here. And I said, you know what? You're right. And in the middle of a board meeting, I got up, walked out. I said, our views aren't compatible.
Isn't it cool to be an adult, like retired adult? Like, hey, I don't need to be a part of it. I do not need to invest one more minute in this. And I have left every other organization. The only professional organization I'm a member of is IASF.
Mhm.
and there's no dues and the limit to get in. And it's not. I'm not promoting this here. I will, but I'm not right now. It's still how do how do what's it mean to be a professional author? It's not you have to find an agent and be traditionally published, otherwise you're not a professional. Fuck that. I am plenty
There you go.
professional. My
There's the
books are right
swearing.
next to
Woo!
everybody else's. That's we needed that. Yeah, I had a nice diatribe for your the head of your board, former board, but yeah, it didn't rate. It's like no, I'm just going to leave because this is just stupid. And because a professional suffer for your art. I am violently opposed to suffering for your art. I don't think you should have to suffer for anything that you do and embrace. I mean, if you just want to, fine, then don't join IASFA,
Right.
don't join 20 books. Just write for your art then and have a great time and enjoy what you're doing from that. But when somebody joins 20 books to 50K, that's a retirement plan based on your books. How could you
Right.
join the group and say, well, I don't think anybody should make money? And we've had that. It's like, what the fuck are you doing here? So we boot them. I mean, it's
Yep.
anybody who says, well, you should really love what you write. I agree with that. You should love what you write because otherwise it becomes like real work. Like
Right.
if I was trying to write uh, uh, stories that aren't in my genre, like me trying to write a romance or trying to say, well, E.L. James sold 91 million copies of her book. I need to write that. Oh my God, that would be like fingernails on the chalkboard, paper cuts with lemon juice in them, painful. And I
Yeah.
didn't retire, so I could do something painful. So,
Right.
so, so
Absolutely.
I write stories like Four Horsemen stuff.
Yep. Write good stories. Write
So yeah,
stories that
there's
are
another
fun.
diatribe.
The people that
Yeah,
say, "Oh, well, you have to have a message in your story." You don't have to have a message. You have to write good stories. You have to. People want to read stories for the
yeah, yeah,
escapism. Life is hard enough already. They don't need to be
yeah.
lectured. And the people that want to lecture, okay, well, you go over there and do that stuff. I'm writing good stories that people want to read so they can embrace the escapism, go places, do things, you
Yep.
know, and have fun. And that's
Entertainment, man.
right, exactly, and that's what CKP is about: is good stories without the message fiction, and
Yeah.
that's what it'll always be.
Well,
And
I'm a big fan. I'm a child of the '60s. I think I'm a little older than you, and I watched the original Star Trek when they first came out because my brother, 8 years older, he was able to get the TV because this was his show. He's a big science fiction
mm-hmm,
fan and went on to have 2 doctorates of engineering. And so he loved these shows. And what I got from him was, hey, these were entertaining. And only when I went back later was I saw how socially dynamic they were for the era, the 1960s, how every episode was some social issue that they then couched and hid. So you can address those, but
mm-hmm,
don't preach. If when you
right,
start preaching, then you lose readers, and so you can couch that in there because if you look at David Weber's million selling books, some of those, it's like there's a lot of politics in there and political maneuvering and some
mm-hmm,
backstabbing on the politics level. It's like, you could look at that and say, this is painful, but it's entertaining. He did it in such a way that you
right.
were entertained. You knew they were going to win because at the end of the book, they always win. And that's why some of the books go on for like 9,000 pages in a single paperback because they're going to go until they win.
Uh-huh.
Okay, they didn't win yet. Well, then the book isn't going to end.
I was
Welcome to
able
David Weber.
in our book Into the Light. I was able to hold him under 200,000. I thought that was a pretty good claim to fame. I held David Weber below 200,000 words in one book.
Those are some big goddamn books, man.
Those are some big books. If you're having a problem with your house is a wind tunnel and the doors keep slamming,
Yeah,
David can hold open the door.
that's and the expanding universe anthologies. We usually have about 250,000 words worth of short stories in there. So those are bricks as well. I think you've got. Do
Yeah,
you have one? No, you haven't been in one.
I haven't been
Oh
in one.
man, not yet. I think is the right
Not
answer there.
yet.
Just like when I
Correct.
approached you, I'm like, hey man, your anthologies look like they're doing great. I love the authors. I love the premise. Can I write in one? And so it was not yet until it was. And then a good experience always. They actually sold much better than mine, much better than the Expanding Universe. So kudos to you and your universe and your promotion ability to get those out and into people's hands.
Thanks. So yes, I will take a look at the next one and see if I can't do something for it.
Okay, we'll do. We'll put something. I'll put something out in ISFA today or something. We got to have a cooler word to call it, because that's kind of cumbersome. So the org, maybe it'll be just the organization.
The org. Are you a member of the org? Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I'm in the org.
I'm in the org. Alrighty then. It's been almost an hour. We've had Chris Kennedy. We've talked about some things. We discussed small publishing. We discussed the love of writing what you love, writing it well. Because I'm gonna say this. Also, I forgot at the beginning. Today is Friday.
It is.
For those
Today
people
is
who aren't
Friday.
sure,
Who
Friday.
knew? No, I know,
Yeah,
because
fuck,
every
not,
Friday for me is a release date. So I know that today
okay.
is a release day, so it must be Friday.
I release on Monday, and I've got one coming out on Monday. It releases off pre-order. Yes, we got the pre-order final uploaded. I only uploaded one copy, and it was the final, and the final
Woo-hoo!
cover at the start. So all good. That goes on Monday. So yes, I always know Mondays because that's the release day for me. It's Friday. We talked about a bunch of stuff. The love of writing, and one thing that I always mention is it takes a quality story in order to sell. And this is always write good books. You can write a lot of books. There's nothing wrong with that, but write good books. And
Right.
the best you can manage. Don't write a book and keep going back and say, God damn, it's not ready. It's not ready. Only the readers determine. Once again, let me go back to E.L. James and 50 Shades of Grey. 91 million readers said this is a good book. Good enough for me. It's not my book.
That's one
It's
of
not anything I would write.
rules, isn't it? Isn't that one of
Yep.
Heinlein's rules?
Yeah.
Right?
Heinlein's rules of writing.
Once, put it out.
Yeah. That's also Dean Wesley Smith. Right into the dark, get it, and move on. And write it while it's fresh. And I found that the faster I write, the fewer continuity issues I have. The longer I drag it out. Oh, Jesus. I mean, I even change capitalization rules if I drag out the story too long.
Yeah. The first book, somebody said, hey, did you know you killed the same guy twice? I said, well, he obviously got better.
Yeah, that's it's only a flesh wound.
Yeah, it's only a scratch.
You killed the same guy
so
twice.
Yeah, definitely continuity.
My biggest selling series, which we were jamming pretty fast, has made 350,000 or something like that so far. And in the first book, he's Timmons, or he's Simmons. In the second later books, he's Timmons. I changed that because he was a secondary character in the first book. And the second book, and when we found it? When somebody listened to audiobook 6. So the whole series was already published. And so this is one, we just ate it. It's like, we're not going to go back and change it because we have audio on books. Because somebody says, hey, this sounded weird. And I went back to the first book. He's Timmons. I said, it's the same guy. I dicked it up and we didn't catch it before we published it. And now it's too late because it's in audio. So, we left it. So there's an Easter egg if you read the Terry Henry Walton Chronicles. And Simmons, I have no idea how Simmons became Timmons, but it's there it is. We make mistakes and we move on. And
I was editing the second book in a series, and this one guy from the first book, he was a white guy in the first book. He was a black guy in the second, and I asked the author, hey, how does that work? And he says, well, he's a black guy in the first book. I said, no, he's not. Go here. Here's the passage. And he says, well, he should have been. Oh, okay. Well, I'm sure the readers knew that that's what he should have been. But
all I can tell you is what you wrote.
Yeah, he's going to have to stay white in this one. Sorry.
Yeah, because we already got audio. And that's what I found. Once you sign that audio contract, damn, you're boned.
Yeah. wait, this
All
person,
right.
that's not her name. Yes, it is. No, it's not. No, she has a different name. Uh, what? That's not what it's supposed to be. It's like, well, that's what you wrote. How? What? 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 Come on, man.
Yeah. Readers aren't, they're not mind readers. They're
Yeah.
readers, not mind readers. So, on that note, we're looking forward to tomorrow is Saturday. CNM show with Michael will be at 8 a.m. my time. So noon Eastern time. And we'll be talking about various stuff. We haven't decided a topic. We'll pick that when we first start talking and hopefully get some questions from folks and be able to answer those. Really appreciate you coming on today, Chris. Thank you very much for your time. And I'm sure you got books to do, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, man. It's been great chatting with you.